Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw. Eric Niss, my intrepid co-host, will not be joining me on this episode. However, I am joined by the man that put Mike White in Mike White March, the host of the Projection Booth podcast, the internet's favorite movie podcast, Mr. Mike White.
Ignite me, Chris. Ignite me.
Burn me. Ugh. It's just intellectual masturbation. Ugh. God. Good Lord. You know what? This movie is intellectual masturbation. Jesus Christ. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Good Lord. Well, on this episode of the Kulturecast, we are talking about the second to last film for Mike White March. We are talking about Yoshishige Yoshida's Eros Massacre. It is the first film in Yoshida's trilogy of Japanese radicalism, followed by Heroic Purgatory and Coup d'etat. The film is two films, essentially. A film about the anarchist Sakae Ōsugi, and also a film about, I guess, the two students who are living in Japan and are kind of following the ideas that Ōsugi practiced.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So, Mike, like I've been doing on every Mike White March Kulturecast, why did you pick this film? This 216-minute epic film.
Just so people don't have to do math, it's 3 hours and 22 minutes.
It is a film that is hard to watch.
It is. Which would you say is easier, Celine and Julie Go Boating or this one?
Celine and Julie Go Boating, without a doubt.
Yeah. I agree. I kind of wish I had been locked in a theater to see this movie because it was really hard to pay attention. Though why I picked it, I almost went with Coup d'etat, which is also by Yoshida, but for whatever reason, Eros Massacre is hailed as being better, and more people talk about this film than they do Coup d'etat, so I decided to go with this one. And it kind of speaks to the early part of the 20th century in Japan, but also speaking about contemporary stuff. And it also kind of hits on some of those themes that we've been talking about with Japanese New Wave Month as far as the filmmaking, also having a character who is a filmmaker in it, looking back at the past, looking at the present, ideas of radicalism and free love kind of all thrown together into one big package. And if you like naked Japanese girls, you're going to like this movie quite a bit. Though I don't think there's enough naked Japanese girls to necessarily keep your attention if you aren't really interested in the politics of free love.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
And really unusual framing. I really like the way that this movie is shot, the compositions of it, and I think that it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. Is it 3 hours and 22 minutes worth of gorgeous to look at? I'm not quite sure. I think it could have been a little better, being a little tighter, but it's definitely it's gorgeous, though a little overlong.
Yeah, so my kind of whole issue with this movie really is the length of the film. And this is kind of not like indicative of my age, quote unquote, or kind of my generation, but definitely people my age are going to have a hard time watching this film. I don't think people my age would be interested in this film anyways, primarily based on, it's a Japanese New Wave film with subtitles, and there aren't a lot of people that... I mean, this is a generally accepted thing that there are people out there that just don't like films with subtitles. I don't get it. I never will. I never have. You've essentially closed off an entire film world, the international film world, to yourself, which is a huge bummer. But I have to agree with everything you said. It's a beautiful film. But a beautiful film only gets you so far in my book, and it is 3 hours and 30 minutes long. There is an interlude in this film, okay? And not in like a 2001 A Space Odyssey way. This is a legitimate, go ahead and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because the movie's only half over.
It was that last hour that took a lot for me, just to make it through that last hour of it.
Well, and the last hour of the film is kind of when the film really abandons all structural concepts and starts to really go more into the experimental film style. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. In the last hour of it, I mean, we've actually, I probably made a mistake by not having us do Coup d'etat or even In the Realm of the Senses, because In the Realm of the Senses has come up on every single episode that we've done so far. And both Coup d'etat and In the Realm of the Senses, though much less to an extent of In the Realm of the Senses, and there were actually a few other films that were based upon the same incident. In the Realm of the Senses, in the background of what's going on is this thing called the 226 incident, February 26th, which happened in 1936, and it was basically a coup that was happening where the army was trying to overthrow the government. And so some films have looked directly at that, such as Yoshida's Coup d'etat, and others have played that in the background of their films, including In the Realm of the Senses, which has also going on this idea of this couple together and just having tons and tons of sex and it becoming more and more obsessive as it goes along. And that kind of reminded me of the last part of Eros plus Massacre, where we kind of focus more on the Eros, I suppose, which is this couple, actually it's a man and two women, and all of this sex is going on, and just it seems to get more and more obsessive. And then we have the fighting that's happening between the two women and the man, and he is a proponent of free love, of having multiple partners, polygamy, all this kind of stuff. And so there's this whole idea of one of the women wanting to murder him, and I just kept thinking of In the Realm of the Senses and just the way that there's a castration that happens in that, and I kept waiting for it to happen in this movie. So it feels like all of these things kind of get tied together, and I feel like I kind of gave you the short end of the stick by having Eros plus Massacre as the movie that we watched instead of one of these other two.
Well, and this film, like we've been saying, this film is a very rough watch. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around the film because it's essentially two films. Mm-hmm. It's two films that are mashed together. I'm sure that someone, this film came out in 1969. So I'm sure in that span of time in between then and now, someone has cut two versions of the film, right?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if they haven't cut it, at least they've done timelines to discuss what part takes place in what era and the way that we flip back and forth between these two time periods. And then there are points where they come together and we have a contemporary character trying to interview an older character.
Right, and that to me was the biggest, what the fuck is going on all of a sudden?
Right.
Wait, what? All of a sudden, one of the characters from the present day is literally just interviewing a character from the kind of, I guess, ancient, but not really, but previous Japanese time, aka the other timeline. And it is very disjointed because I have no idea. All of a sudden, you're just like, wait, what? And I had no idea is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's kind of tough because though the films let's call them two films that are put together, like you just said, the two films are separated by stylistic stuff. There's some, if you're watching carefully enough, you can see that the 1920s stuff is being shot in one way, which is kind of more classical, almost like an Ozu kind of way, kind of way. And then the new stuff is shot slightly more radical, and that's where you have some of these crazy framings that I'm talking about, where it feels like the characters are going to slip off of the sides of the frames. And the modern part, the 1969 part, has some fuzz rock going on, some really kind of cool score happening, but it almost doesn't happen enough so that you don't get these clear lines of delineation between what's modern and what's older. And the hairstyles and things are such that you can't really tell. It's not like we're going back to the 1800s and we have samurai and those kind of things. We're talking about a span of 45 years difference between 1923 when the Amakazu incident happens and then 1969 when the movie is being set for the contemporary stuff. So it's not like we have this huge difference where we're like, oh, look at how...
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Crazy those people dressed back then. No, a lot of people have the same kind of hairstyles and stuff, and even the beard and the mustache of the dude from 1923 looks more contemporary than the filmmaker character in 1969. So I'm just like, oh, well. And then the women, I mean, this is no offense, this is just me being a dumb gaijin. It's just like a lot of times the women, I was just like, well, is that one of the 1969 women or is that one of the 1923 women? And then when they meet, it's like, oh, fuck, now I've just lost the thread completely.
Yeah, no, so that was one of the big problems that I had with the film for sure, was I had a hard time determining what timeline some of the stuff was taking place in. And I obviously that's intentional, right? That's not a accident that they're doing it that way.
I hate to be this guy, but I think if we watch this movie a second time, which just sounds... yeah.
No.
If we watch this movie...
We could.
Yeah. We watch this movie a second time, and then we watch it with commentary. We're probably going to figure out a lot more stuff, but man, on a first viewing, oof, tough kind of, it's really difficult to figure out what's happening.
Did you just advocate watching this film 3 times?
Yeah. I actually got assigned a movie for the projection booth coming up called The Color Pomegranates. And the guy who worked on the extras is like, well, you should read this, then you should watch this, then you should watch the movie, and then you should do this, and then you should do that, and then you should watch the movie. And it's like, he had me watching the movie 5 times in there. Luckily, it's only 70-some minutes, but... still,
I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this again. I mean, so this is the thing, and this is as insane as this is. There are such long spans in this movie where effectively nothing is happening, even no dialogue is being spoken, that I was able to read up about this movie while sitting there. And like looking at like written works, like people have done in-depth analyses of this film.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like sitting like reading these while watching the film and being like, okay, that makes more sense, because Wikipedia is an awesome resource for podcasting, because not only does it give a synopsis of most movies that we talk about, but it also gathers stuff from across the internet talking about themes and style, so you don't have to go and dig through huge articles, but you can, because the articles are often cited as well.
Well, yeah, this movie was such an influence that David Desser, when he wrote his book on the Japanese New Wave, named it Eros Massacre, because this does fit, like I was saying, it takes care of the themes, and even the name of the film, love and death, basically, Eros and Thanos, Eros Massacre, that's very much indicative of the entire movement overall. This idea of, last week we talked about Funeral Parade of Roses, where it's
love and death.
Yeah, definitely about love and death. And then the week before with death by hanging. So we've got love the death. Yeah. So we talk about this a lot. And then I imagine in Ecstasy of the Angels, we're probably going to get a lot more of the same.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing about this film, is that it does keep in line with everything we've been talking about up until this point. Mm-hmm. It is very much, and everything that I was reading about this film, and a lot of it is like very like highbrow stuff. Kahir's do cinema. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, this is not just like some dude on his, oh God, what is it? His like, what were those pages called in the 90s where people could just like make their own like website?
GeoCities?
Yeah, it's not like some dude on his GeoCities just being like, Eros Massacre. This is like highbrow like books and published literature about this film. And everything that I've read would lead me to believe that this is the Japanese New Wave film of Japanese New Wave films.
Yeah. Well, where's the guy with this GeoCities page that talks about the 166-minute version of it and what the differences are? That's kind of what I wanted to see, was what's the short version and what are we missing from the short version? Is this one of the movies that would actually benefit from having a short version? It doesn't sound like it, because they had to actually remove one whole character and any references to her.
Which character did they remove?
Okay. I think it was one of the actually, because there's 3 women in the old time stuff, right? There's not just one woman. There's actually, or there's not just 2 women. It's actually 3 women that are going out with this guy.
Itsoku, Noe, and then is it no, I don't remember the other one's name, but she's like not really important.
Right. It is Ichiko Kamichika, who's in the movie. She's Itsuko Masoka. So Ichiko Kamichika, one of the dangers of doing this film only 40-some years from the original incident is that this woman was still alive, so she was going to sue because she was actually an active politician in the 1960s. So she was like, no, you're violating my privacy rights. So they changed her name and then they chopped her out.
Huh. I mean, and look, honestly, I may go back and watch that version of the film. I don't know how I would get a hold of it because let's be honest, I got this from you.
Right.
I'm assuming that there's like a Criterion version of this or something of that equivalent out there. But for me, and I have watched God knows how many movies in my lifetime, there are a few films that I have found as hard to watch, yet as kind of enthralling in a way as this film.
Right.
Because this film is extremely hard to watch. This is not a film you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to go put on Eros plus Massacre. I mean, this reminds me of when I watched Casino. It's like, I'm just not going to just go put on Casino. The movie is 3 hours long. I mean, this movie tops that one even. I mean, this movie is over the 3-hour mark. I think Casino is like 2 minutes shy of 3 hours. But, you know, this is not a movie where you're like, I'm going to go put this on. I mean, this consumed 2 days watching this. I mean, this is a mountain to climb cinematically.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also a film that kind of requires numerous watchings, I would say.
This is no insult intended for this film and for Yoshida's work. I would actually like to just kind of have this on almost as wallpaper and just kind of have it on in the house and absorb it more that way than trying to buckle down and watch it, sit down and watch it a couple times like that. I think just having it on and checking out different parts, because I don't think it necessarily matters the order that I'm seeing stuff in. I think I just need to absorb more of the movie itself and just kind of, I can put the pieces back together again in my head, because we're not necessarily in a real, I mean, these 2 movies that are running simultaneously are kind of in chronological order, but I don't think I necessarily need that as a crutch.
Right. Well, and that for me is kind of the big takeaway, is that this film, yet because of the way that it's structured, you can just kind of walk away and come back. Because like each of these scenes is kind of self-contained in a way. So if that makes sense, because they're so taken out of context. Because the through line it's kind of up and down. It's like a sine wave. I mean, there's different parts of the film on each side of the line. It's not one through line, which is, I mean, it's a little disjointed for a lot of people that aren't used to. Again, this comes back to the whole idea of experimental film, because this is very much, again, an experimental film.
Right. And just to make sure that I say this, yes, this is available on Blu-ray. I don't think that it's Criterion, but there is a version, and I think there is commentary that it goes with and all of these things. And you can look around and find what they call the theatrical version of it, which is the shorter version. So it is out there, which is good. And for a long time, that was the only version that was out there.
Was the shortened version?
Correct.
That's kind of astounding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Huh. Well, it's on, so get this, it's on Prime right now.
Yeah, right?
Kind
of crazy.
Video. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's contained, though, you can pick it up on Amazon in the Kuji Yoshida Love plus Anarchism box set.
Okay, there you go.
Because it's like Eros plus Massacre, Heroic Purgatory, and Coup d'etat. So if you want to watch all those films, that's how you're going to go about getting them. That's how you're probably going to go about getting the commentary as well. So
now, is that through Criterion or through Eclipse?
No, I don't know who that's through. That's through Arrow Academy.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Good for them.
Arrow does a lot of horror movies, right?
They do, but they also have a really good selection of Japanese films. They actually put out a really good collection of the Lone Wolf and Cub films. I think it was just last year on Blu-ray.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just know Arrow from like all of the horror movies that they put out.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if your Facebook feed is like my Facebook feed, you have people that will post and repost like, hey, look at this cool thing's coming out from this. And they're not posting about Japanese New Wave films.
No, they're posting about like Arrow or, what's the other one? There's another one just like Arrow that releases.
Shout Factory and...
Yeah, Shout Factory.
Yeah, and Synapse, yeah. And it's just like, oh, yeah, look at this cool 1980s Roger Corman film. It's like, all right, cool. But yeah, you get this people posting the same things all the time. So it's like the rare person that I know that will be like, hey, look at, Female Convict Scorpion 71 is out or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Is that a real movie?
Yeah. Oh. It's like, that's what I want to see.
Sound like some shit you just made up.
No. I just took 4 words and strung them together, and I came up with Female Convict Scorpion 71.
Yeah. Banana Beetle Dancing Men, 1984. See, I can do it too, and it's just as convincing, but I'm kind of surprised it's a real name of a movie, except I'm not.
Actually, what I'm doing is I'm conflating 2 things. There's Female Convict Scorpion, Jailhouse 41, and there's Female Prison 701 Scorpion. So I apologize.
Oh, right, because those definitely sound together even more insane than them smashed together.
As opposed to Detective Bureau 2-3, Go to Hell Bastards.
Oh, my God. You know what? Eros Massacre is not looking so bad right now. But if you are planning on watching this on Amazon, which I think everyone should watch this, the version on Amazon is the 166-minute version.
Okay, there we go.
So, and it's English subtitled. Unfortunately, no, it's not English dubbed, but I feel like this is a conversation.
Oh,
what?
Just the English dubbed. That just hurt, just even thinking about it.
Right. So that's something I want to have a little sidebar conversation with you about. What are your thoughts on English dubs of foreign films?
Well, there are certain markets that will not necessarily shoot sync sound. So like Italian films are primarily shot without sound, or they'll just shoot wild sound on it. And when it comes to something like that, they make those movies with the idea of we are going to dub these internationally. So we will have these voice actors come in and they'll do this, and they do what I consider to be a very good job. And if they can get the original actor to speak in English, so like Clint Eastwood dubbing himself, Lee Van Cleef dubbing himself in the Fistful of Dollar films.
Because most people don't even remember that those are films that were shot in Italy. Those are Italian-made films. Right. If you're a fan of the Man with No Name trilogy, you've seen a foreign film. Even if you hate the idea of watching a foreign film, you've seen one.
So I'm absolutely fine with that. I will watch Italian, crime films and spaghetti westerns dubbed into English, no problem. When it comes to things that aren't necessarily meant to be dubbed, so what we're talking about now, Japanese New Wave films, it's not like they were shooting these with the idea of dubbing them for a foreign market. I'm not a big fan. Even when it comes to animation stuff, I prefer to go to that. I'm not necessarily a purist. I won't not watch something if I can only see the dubbed version of it. But most of the time, dubbing is bad to laughable. So, I don't want to see Time Crimes dubbed. I don't want to see, Abras los Ojos. I mean, even when it came to I think, I can say this for my generation. I think we all grew up with the dubbed version of Holy Mountain and El Topo, and seeing them in any other language is almost disconcerting now that we've seen the dubbed versions so many times. But, hey, I'll watch it in whatever the original language was. I would prefer to see it in the original language, and if I can't, I'll watch the dubbed version.
Man, El Topo is an awesome movie, though, isn't it?
Fuck yeah.
El Topo is great. I love El Topo. But Mike...
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster. You know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
And feeling on dubbed movies, dubbing something into English is that's not the way it was meant to be watched.
Right.
And so why waste your time? I understand that watching a movie that is dubbed means you have to completely and utterly pay attention. You know what I mean?
Dubbed or subtitled?
Subtitled.
Yeah.
When you're watching a movie that's subtitled, you have to give it your undivided attention because you can't just listen. And trust me, I'm probably just as guilty of this as you are. I would check my phone.
Yeah, right? I mean, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, and there's the old curmudgeon, you watching your phone while watching a movie? Yeah, okay, well, welcome to the 21st century, where everyone's phone is much higher powered than the computer I had when I was 10 years old. So there you go. But I think it's an inevitability of the age that we live in, that if you're watching a film in your own comfort of your own home, you're going to check your phone. So obviously, if you're watching a movie that has English language, you don't have to pay attention because for the most part, you can hear what's going on in the background. But with a film like this doesn't allow you to do that because it's subtitled. That requires you to literally focus on the film, which I think now people would use that as a quote unquote excuse for why they don't want to watch subtitled film. Before it's just, well, I don't want to read. And now it's, it forces me to pay attention and I can't do something else. And I'm not chiding anyone for doing that. I completely understand. Like sometimes you want to put a movie on and do something else, but I don't think that this is that kind of movie.
No.
Period. The end. End demo. But you know what I mean? Like I don't think that this is ever going to be that kind of movie for anyone.
Even though here I am advocating just having it on and going about your day, but
that's assuming that you've already seen it.
Right. But I'm also saying turn it on, leave it on. When it's over, go ahead, hit repeat, and then continue to go about your business and just keep checking it out and just try to absorb it that way if you can't, sit yourself down because, it's a slog. I mean, any movie that's over 3 hours is a tough watch most of the time. There are very few movies where you sit there and you go, wow, I can't believe that was only 2 hours. I can't believe that was only 2.5 hours. And very, very few where you're like, I really can't believe that was 3 hours and 22 minutes.
So let me ask you, so I'm curious because I have my answer. And we're not going to say 3, we'll say 2.5. What film for you stands out as it's a 2.5 hour movie, but it doesn't feel like it?
Oh, jeez.
It zips by. Because I've got my answer. I feel like my answer is pretty straightforward for a lot of people if they've seen the film.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of some of my favorites that are over 2 hours because I'm thinking it's I used to always think that the original Godfather was way over 2 hours because my parents would watch it on TV and they would stretch it out to over 3 hours with commercials. Or they would watch that The Godfather, a novel for television, which is 5 hours long. And that zips by for me. I guess a long movie that goes quickly every single time it's got to be those Lord of the Rings movies. I absolutely love the first 2 Lord of the Rings. And I'm talking about the extended versions of them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about those. My go-to answer is always Goodfellas. And that movie's 2.5 hours long. But I mean, it flies by.
Hell yeah. When the chapter stops in that movie are incredible. The way that we shift tone from the different chapters of that, when we move from young Henry to middle-aged Henry, and then we move into the end with the bust and everything, that is fantastic.
Yeah. Again, I will stand on my soapbox and shout to anyone that listens, that's Scorsese's best film. I don't care what anyone says. I understand that's up for debate, but Goodfellas for me is a perfect film. There is nothing that I have a problem with it. And then Casino comes close, but Casino is too long.
I have no problems with Goodfellas, and I go back to that movie. That's probably the Scorsese film that I go back to the most. And that's definitely the most quotable. And you can quote that sometimes in Polite Company, sometimes not. You can't necessarily quote Taxi Driver in Polite Company too often. So, yeah. So I go back to that one. I go back to After Hours. I go back to King of Comedy. But yeah, it's Goodfellas for me. That's the one that I have like at the ready, closest to the television set.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
You really are a funny guy.
Like funny, like a clown, like I amuse you. Oh my god, no, Goodfellas is. But I mean, like, and that's the problem with this film, Eros Massacre. To kind of bring this all back, this film, you feel the length of this film.
But would you after you watch it the second, the third, the fourth time?
I don't know. So that was the thing. Like, it was such a, like, when we were talking in February about, hey, I'm thinking about doing this Mike White March thing. I was like, kind of, what are you thinking about? And then you said Eros Massacre, and I was looking at it when you said it, and I was like, oh shit, this is like 3 hours. 3 hours plus. This is a daunting task, and I think that factors into it. Mm-hmm. Like, just the preconceived notions about a preconceived notion that you're going to have about a 3-hour film.
Right.
Like, what is someone's preconceived notions about a 3-hour film? And I think that, only having watched this once, this film plays into everything I assume with a 3-hour film, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'll tell you another one that goes fast that is a 3-hour some film, and I'm going to have to look up the exact time, but Seven Samurai. That moves very fast for me.
Never seen it.
Really?
Never seen it.
Wow, we should do a samurai month.
That's the thing. Like, there are just a lot of genres of films that I've never personally had any interest in. Like, we did kaiju movies 2 years ago, and kaiju movies for me were something that I have no interest in. But I enjoyed the films that I watched. But and we've had this conversation before. I'm not a fan of Pacific Rim, which is essentially Guillermo del Toro's love letter to kaiju films. Kaiju films to me, I was like, I've seen one, I've seen them all, and that was kind of my thinking. And then we watched films in Kaiju Movie Month, and that wasn't the case. But like Seven Samurai is just I've never seen most of Kurosawa's films either.
3 hours and 27 minutes is Seven Samurai. And I remember sitting around with my college housemates. God, it was a terribly hot summer. We had a little tiny black and white TV, and we found a air conditioner in the basement, and we took it upstairs. We weren't supposed to be in the basement. We took it upstairs and put it in our window, so just our room was getting air conditioning, and we sat there all afternoon in the cooler air watching Seven Samurai in this little tiny television set, and it was one of my best memories from college.
Yeah, see, and that probably helps with the feelings towards that film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we all have our quote-unquote college days movies. Mine are Videodrome and Rocky Horror Picture Show. So it was a weird combination. But they showed some weird stuff over the MUTV at the University of Missouri. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
They were showing Videodrome on the college television channel.
All right. That works.
I'm not going to complain, but it was weird. It was weird for sure. So, let's take a break and when we get back and finish up talking about the film.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent news service, sir, founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Movies have become a portal to a vast and growing pop culture universe, but you don't need to go over the rainbow to get your pop culture fix. Just head to Rainbow Comics, Cards, and Collectibles. They are your one-stop shop for comics, toys, posters, games, and more. Not a pop culture nerd? No problem. They have something for everyone, including a wide array of sports cards, collectible card games, even memorabilia. Stop by one of their 2 locations today. The flagship location at 3310 South Minnesota Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or their newest location at 1501 Pine Lake Road, Suite 17, Lincoln, Nebraska. Most importantly, don't forget to add them on Facebook for pop culture news, weekly live videos, and special events.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
All right, we are back, and we are talking about Eros plus Massacre. So for you, Mike, and I've asked this question every Mike White March Kulturecast we've done, where does this kind of place amongst some of the other Japanese New Wave films that you've seen?
Amongst the ones that I've seen, I mean, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, this is a gorgeous movie. I love the way that this is shot. It plays with those themes and everything. As far as storytelling, I can't fault this movie for what it's trying to do. I think it succeeds at the experiment that it's doing. It's just not necessarily my cup of tea. So this one's a little bit lower on the scale for me. Some people would say this is the best Japanese film ever made. Not quite for me. I prefer stuff that's either a little bit more experimental, like Funeral Parade of Roses, or even, I would say Death by Hanging is a very experimental film, but it's much more straightforward than this one is as far as just telling a story. You know, you've got a group of people in a room. They go outside for a little bit, but they come back to the room and you have everything taking place in there. And it's tight. It's a very tight story. It makes its point and off it goes. I think next week for Ecstasy of the Angels, I think that one, if memory serves, that's just a little over an hour, or it might even be shorter.
Yeah.
So and that one's going to be a little bit far out. This one, I would say, like, it's, if I were to rank everything Japanese New Wave, this one sits around like the 75, 80 percentile.
Huh. Yeah, so for me, it's this film is kind of, it's in a weird spot because obviously this film, like we've been saying, this really is two films. This film exists as two separate films that are merged together because they're talking about the same thing. And so for me, I appreciate what this film is doing, but it's not my bag at all. That very much so, Death by Hanging was a much more entertaining film, if you could believe that, with a name like Death by Hanging. But Death by Hanging was a much more entertaining film. It was a much more interesting film. It had something more interesting to say. I mean, not to poo-poo this film's message, but I think Death by Hanging said what it was trying to say a lot more concisely and succinctly, and there wasn't as much kind of posturing. And that's a little bit of an issue that I had with this film. And similar issue I had with Funeral Parade of Roses is a little bit of this feels like posturing and being like, well, I could do this. Look at how crazy this is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like this film invites you to go out to a coffee house afterwards and, you know, put on your beret and light up a J and just kind of talk about free love with your chums and everything. And does that really work? And what can 1923 tell us about today and contemporary society and all this kind of stuff? So yeah, it is a little it's a little much sometimes, but again, it's so pretty to look at for me. But it's
it's probably the most beautiful film we've watched this month.
Yeah, it like even seeing the scenes without people and just seeing.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The landscapes or just seeing the buildings and the way that they're framing these things. There's one shot where we've got two women that are talking and there's like a statue in the middle between them and they're almost barely on screen. They're on either side of it. And it's just like, wow, this looks so nice. This is so beautiful. But can that necessarily sustain everything? I don't think it can.
Well, and that I think is the ultimate takeaway from a film like this, or a film like Death by Hanging, or a film like Funeral Parade of Roses, is does it sustain? And I think Death by Hanging and Funeral Parade of Roses do. But I think because this film is 3 hours and some change long, it doesn't. Because it doesn't hold my attention the entire time. Because there's so much space in between kind of what it's talking about, if that makes sense.
It's got a lot of breathing room. Yeah.
And it's got a lot of, this is very beautiful and this is really nice and I like looking at this, but it being beautiful, like we said, it being beautiful and nice to look at does not a great movie make. Does not a worthwhile viewing experience make, unfortunately. And I think that that's kind of my biggest takeaway here is that it's just a really long movie that is edited down to 166 minutes. And that might not sound like much, but still.
If you are a DJ at a club and you put on movies for atmosphere, this is the movie for you. You need to put this on.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. But I mean, again, for sitting here, my first time watching it, looking back on my first time watching this film, I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that I'm done watching it. I'm not bemoaning having watched it like the first time I walked away from Batman vs. Superman, which is almost 3 hours long.
Oof, that I feel every minute.
Right. This film, at least I walk away and I'm like, you know what? This was a fun film. It was a fun film in a way that, you know, it's all over the place. It's got something interesting to say, but ultimately I think it kind of falls short of really having a lasting impact with the message that it's trying to make. But it's a film that I don't walk away and I'm like, you know, fuck this movie because it was 3.5 hours long. Unlike Batman vs. Superman or other movies that are just 3 hours long for 3 hours long's sake.
Oh, I've said fuck this movie about 70-minute movies, so.
Fair enough. I mean, you and I both know that just sometimes a movie just pushes all the wrong buttons in the right way. And,
oh, yeah.
And this movie thankfully didn't do that. I mean, there was not a point where I was like, I'm going to turn this shit off right now. So I never hit that, and I was kind of expecting, because of how long it was, I was expecting to be like, you know what, fuck this, I need to take a break. But I took a break because it was a logical spot to take a break, not because I wanted to. So.
Well, this will tell you, when I was watching this again yesterday morning, and there were things to do on a Saturday morning, getting up, doing a little bit of the laundry, doing emptying the dishwasher, these kind of things, checking the coffee pot, getting the coffee. Even when I'm going out and getting a cup of coffee, I'm pausing this movie. I'm not just letting it run and while I go do that, because it was holding my interest enough that I wanted to see what was coming next, even if it was another long stretch of stuff. But I wanted to experience that.
And there are long stretches of this film of just stuff.
Right.
just things for things' sake. So this film does have that, but I don't think that, like you said, I definitely wanted to see what happened. It held my attention, even if it was kind of up and down. For sure. So what would you give this film out of 5, Mike?
Out of 5, I'd give this probably a 3. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to revisit right away, but like I said, I would like to put it on and try to experience a little bit more of it. It feels like there's more things happening. It doesn't feel like this is some sort of a puzzle film, where I'm just going to have to re-piece everything together and try to make more sense of it. It just feels like I need to experience it again and maybe a few more times just to try to get a little bit more out of it, absorb it a little bit more. But it's not something I'm going to rush out and do anytime soon.
Yeah, I think for me, I would give it like a 3. It's not a bad movie. It's just a movie that I think a lot of people would have a hard time getting through.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think that's unfortunately a bad thing, but not in a bad way. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's just a bad thing that this movie's hard to get through, because if it weren't, more people would have seen it. So what do you think the film has on the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes? And I'll give you an extra point if you can tell me, if you could guess how many user ratings it has, because it doesn't have a tomato meter score.
I think it has 131, and it's probably at about 77%.
Those are oddly specific. You're right on the money, though. Obviously, you fucking clown.
One of the few times I actually look it up. That's the first time I've been to Rotten Tomatoes in about 5 years.
Well, yeah, it's because you're getting ready for the all-female Rotten Tomatoes. Duh. All those men on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
Fuck yourselves. Hey, where were all these women when Annihilation come out and no one went and saw it? Oh, that's right. No one went and saw it. Stupid me.
I went to see it.
There is one review for Eros plus Massacre, though.
Oh.
It's from Slant Magazine.
And what does Slant have to say?
Kiju Yoshida's thought-provoking political trilogy makes its Region A Blu-ray Region A Blu-ray debut with sturdy transfers and some essential contextual bonus materials. And I guess Rotten Tomatoes considered that to be a fresh enough. They didn't say anything good about that. They just said here it is. Great.
All right.
All right, well, we will take a break and we will play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
What's your name?
Laura.
Surname?
Croft. Laura, your father's gone. You can pick up where he left off. I see so much of him in you. Brilliant.
Hello, Sprout. If you're listening to this, then I must be dead. I found something. A tomb called the Mother of Death. If Trinity succeeds, our world is in danger. Promise me you will stop them.
I promise. I think I know where my dad went.
That's right in the middle of the Devil's Sea.
It will be an adventure.
Death is not an adventure.
You shouldn't have come here. But I'm glad that you did.
What do you know about my father?
Now I see the likeness, the recklessness. Close the tomb once and for all. The fate of humanity is now in your hands.
Can't be too careful these days. The world has gone bloody mad.
I'll take two.
That's right. On the next Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about yet another video game movie. I wonder if it's going to be good or bad. Probably not great because it's a video game movie, but hey, they'll learn eventually. We're going to be talking about Tomb Raider 2018, and we have to say that because there have been two other ones. Kind of doing something a little different. Mike, you've already seen Tomb Raider, so what did you think of it?
I thought it was not a good movie, but an enjoyable movie.
And that's kind of a lot of the reviews I've read. Haven't said that it's like bad. It's just, it's not anything very exciting, but it's better than probably the Angelina Jolie one.
Well, I like the first Angelina Jolie one. Was not that big of a fan of the second one. I will admit, though I've probably seen the second one. Well, I've only seen the second one maybe like 3 times, but I've seen the first one quite a few times, and I enjoy it. But I actually no, you haven't seen it yet, so I don't want to spoil anything for you. Or can I spoil?
Read the synopsis. I already read the synopsis.
Oh, okay.
On Wikipedia.
I kind of like that this Lara Croft is not super rich at the beginning, so she's actually kind of a screw-up at the beginning, which I kind of appreciated. So then she gets to gain her skills, but she becomes a badass like within 5 seconds. So, take it as you will.
Mike, come on.
Okay, all right.
Clearly, it's called video game realism.
There's a lot of choking going on, and yeah, the wigs are distracting. The wigs on Dominic West are very distracting.
Well, my kind of before I see it thoughts on this film are, and this is kind of my whole issue with video game movies, is why would I go watch a movie about a video game that's already cinematic to begin with?
I don't know. I've never played Tomb Raider.
Right. Well, I figured you hadn't, but I when you have a video game that is cinematic in its presentation and it's effectively a playable movie, why go see a movie about it?
All right. True.
So, yeah. Because they're making an Uncharted movie. It's the same thing. I don't get it. I guess I don't know who this is I guess I don't know who this is for. Is this for people that have never played Tomb Raider like yourself, or is this for fans of it who are going to look at this and be cynical and be like, yeah, right. This is going to be bad, right? Because every video game movie is always bad. So, but it's not the worst that you've seen, right?
Oh, no. I've seen video game movies that are far worse.
Super Mario Brothers.
But, not everything can be the first Mortal Kombat movie.
That's true. Not everything can be Alone in the Dark.
Oh, man.
Not everything can be Blood Rain with Ben Kingsley.
Oh, you're just going right into Uwe Boll territory, huh?
Yeah. Right.
Just read off his filmography for a few years until you get to Postal, which I just name-checked on our last episode of The Projection Booth as being a much better example of 9/11 comedy than An American Carol.
Yeah, but Postal is based off a video game.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm saying I like that video game, or I like that movie based on that video game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, other than your thoughts on Tomb Raider, what is going on at the Projection Booth podcast?
Well, we do have that episode of An American Carol coming out. So talking about conservative comedy and why it doesn't necessarily work very well. And yeah, we will be doing The Color of Pomegranates, which I name-checked earlier, which that's going to be an interesting one. And then as soon as we're done talking, we're going to be recording an episode about Children of Men from 2006, the Laugh Riot all-star fun comedy that was Children of Men.
It's a real knee slap, they would say. Jesus Christ. Well, and for us over at the Kulturecast, you can follow me on Twitter at CultureShocked. You can follow Mike on Twitter at ProBoothcast. You can follow my wayward co-host Eric on Twitter at Tychomagnetics, and you can follow CultureShocked on Twitter at CultureShocked. You can find links in the description to our Patreon account as well, where you can kick a couple dollars our way, help us keep making good podcasts or bad podcasts, whatever you think. It's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. So thanks again, Mike, for putting together this month and sitting down again, taking over Eric's spot for a second Mike White March Culturecast and talking about another Japanese New Wave film with me.
I think Eric just hates me now.
I don't think so. I he would tell me, trust me. And make sure to check out the next Culturecast.
Posted with the crew, yeah. You know how we do, I'm just two-step, drink in my right hand, phone in my other hand, getting to the money, oh man, two-step, posted with the crew, yeah. You know how we do.
Hey, two-step, you know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 1, 2, Benjamin, aka the Black T, you know what I'm saying? Catch me with my crew every day. Two-step. Oh, my phone in my other hand, like, hello? Oh, get into the money, man. Yeah.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.